First of all, I make these videos on a daily basis. So I try to. It is exhausting, but for me, it's the best way to just put myself back into the state of reality of what's happening, and it's a way to anchor myself with the reality of what's happening here with me as a target individual. Especially, it makes me stay in tune with how I need to face these clowns when we face each other. It's not gonna be pretty. I know that for a fact. And I just want to make sure that it doesn't go any other way but that. Especially the slow losers, I try to warn them in a way that maybe they can read in between the line, that if they try to come with the gimmicks in the way they present themselves and think that they're not being properly seen for what they're part of, what they are, and what's happening here, it's gonna be a problem. It's gonna be an issue, and it's quite clear. And so I am not here to endorse any kind of aggression or anything like that, but this trash that they utilize around you are people who think that they're gonna recreate reality and expect you to be pacific and just let that happen. First of all, as a target individual, I've accepted that this is not only happening to me, but it's doing horrible things to even children. I know that this is a program that's utilizing human beings in this disturbing way. Even children are suffering, very young children. And with me, they've been trying to counter that by having this non-adult, and you hear me say calling them non-adults because I don't try to humanize these people, to try to participate in covering up the reality of what this is about. These non-adults have started recreating reality where they think that they're going to be perceived as heroes, but what they're heroes for is a hero for a program that torture children. They take a lot of effort to try to cover up that the tortures of children is happening, and they try to negate that. They put in a lot of effort to negate that. And not only they do try to negate that, they think that they could have created emotion. They can present themselves in this emotional way that can cover that up. It's very gaslighting, brainwashing tactic. Is they think they can override reality by behaving a certain way, and they're gonna face me, who at this point you can see how I locked in with the reality of what this is about. Now by myself and isolated, I understand things are happening this way, being manipulated in degrading ways. Some of this pathetic teenage trash we've seen in these videos is really bad. It is really bad. I'd really detest them. They're disgusting human life, but they're perps. They're nothings. The government utilized them to partake in this. Nothing more or less. They're not behind what's happening to me. They just involved them in that. There's plenty of perps like that, target individual. Don't see those people who do these things to you as anything but this trash, these clowns that's supposed to partake in this. There's adults, there's children. This is so disgusting. So for me, I always lock in with the reality. They failed, first of all, the manipulation. Big time. They drastically failed that. When I mean failed the manipulation, let me say this better. I'm a target individual who, as I've made many videos about it, now I'm going to continue to do that just for me at this point, because I think everything has been said. They do this manipulation because I'm a target individual who deal with V2K and synthetic telepathy. Then they had these clowns around me that was supposed to gaslight me, that they're not doing this manipulation. It's part of their research. And they try to piece things together to make me internalize this manipulation. And they're like, now we prove that and this and that, when in reality they've been so discredited to the point of they torture children. I mean, they're literally harming the youngest children you can imagine. This is not a program that's out here protecting children, about the well-care of children. They're the opposite. Matter of fact, children are suffering in very agony way, in very painful way, or in very anguish-like ways. This is why in a lot of my videos today, you'll see me put this in their face. I will always put that in their faces, and as the more of this comes up, I will put more of that in their face. It's not going to be a day where they're going to be perceived by anything that does anything but what you're going to see here. These people are so evil and so unfair and so daring and bold that they torture children. I'm using the language that they use to minimize the level of horror they're part of. I'll always put that in their face, and it's easy. They put a lot of effort to negate this evil. And it's a lot of it, and a lot of condescending ways of trying to gaslight me. Because what they're trying to do is simple.
The evil satanic thing I have ever heard.
Worryingly, a growing number of people are contacting TI support organizations to report that their children seem to be displaying signs of these weapons. Often, the parents are victims themselves, making the torture a generational thing.
A significant number of members, many single mothers and small children, minor children as young as 3 years old, are being targeted and harassed, particularly with voice to skull, V2K. The sickness that someone would torture a small child is beyond belief. We have confirmed that these kids are in fact receiving directed energy weapons and voice to skull. It's a very disturbing development for us. With children, they'll use their mother's voice. The parent has to tell the child, watch my lips. If you didn't see me say it to you, that wasn't me.
This is the kind of horror this trash are part of. They're trying to compensate anything in every way to cover that up. They tell me I'm going to be tortured in horrible ways and this and that's, like whatever way I'm going to be tortured. You will never be able to negate this. That validates that this is a program that does these things to children. And everything they do is meant to be torturous. And so these losers of childlike trash participate in that, have the task to cover that up so they can paint themselves as ways of protecting children. And paint means a certain way, which that is the only failure, the greatest failure they've had, because that's the only thing that's failable. So when I face this teenager, I swear on the soul of this trash, and I swear on the soul of these children that this trash will not live this fantasy. That they will not ever come near me without me knowing that they are accountable for being involved in this. And I'm not threatful, I'm just warning them. They thought that their disgustingness and their tantrum was going to cover that up. And they're being hype that to think that I'm going to let them live the fantasy on the soul of these poor children. It'll be very easy. Now with me, I see this disgusting low life. Let me just show you how bad this thing low life are. Disgusting. They come in different shape and form. It's so disturbing that, you know, not too long ago, even some pregnant, sad, pathetic teenage trash was trying to make herself see. This trash here. And if you don't know what to look at, just look at all the way there. This thing in white. It's some pathetic teenage trash trying to show her pregnant stomach. There's some pathetic losers. And by the way, as I'm watching that, they're playing my brain to force me to get stimulation. Now, if this trash are so disconnected and think that they're gonna make me internalize that I'll be acceptive of this manipulation towards some teenage, sad, pathetic low life showing her nasty stomach, thinking that's gonna make me have a natural experience, I'm here for them. These trash are involved in a program where they make children suffer and live in agony like that, and think that this disgusting trash here, as pathetic as they are, I will let them live the fantasy. It'll be an easy call. That individual, you gotta be strong. But this thing that we're throwing in, you gotta find yourself lucky, because you could be living like this trash. I have no sympathy for them. None, zero. Matter of fact, I'm eager for them to try to play that game in front of me. Not because I think they're behind what's happening to me, because I know how much effort they put in trying to cover up what they're part of and what they do to even children. Now with me, they do this manipulation, and they do that from the youngest babies, the little ones, to this older kids, like this trash, even this pregnant looking trash over there, just showing her stomach. And you hear this noise campaign that's supposed to intimidate me. You know how I can make sure that this doesn't happen? As soon as you listen to this child screaming in pain, these bikers, right, they stop the noise campaign immediately. But to try to gaslight me, they do all this theatrical noise campaign. Because they think the fear tactic is going to make me accept this manipulation from people who can make children scream like that. It's such a fair psyop. They know what they're involved in, make children suffer. Now, going back to the manipulation, which is the reason why you're hearing the noise campaign that was supposed to create a fear tactic and to make me internalize that, because conveniently that noise campaign stops when you hear the child scream. But when it comes to the manipulation, all this intimidating noise campaign is coming up. The reason why it's happening is because they want me to internalize this. These clowns are pathetic. Now, not too long ago, something just happened. They make me have these experiences every time I see the youngest of the youngest children, babies. And they do the same when I see older kids, late teenager or teenagers. And different faction, they force me to get stimulation. Now, even this pregnant trash here, they're forcing me to get stimulation. And I love to put that in their faces. And I wear body cams because this trash world is so disconnected to think I'm going to subscribe to that. Now, the way they make me try to internalize the different ways of manipulation from the youngest kids to the oldest kids is try to piece things together to make me internalize this manipulation. For me, when the youngest kid, like, now we're matching to you as a kid. And then when it comes to the older kids, they make me think of somebody I follow thinking shows an adult. That today looks exactly the same. This ocean thing here, ocean person here. Matter of fact, this little retarded person with the little forehead, that's a next door neighbor. Some little teenage kid. Who think I'm going to be subscriptive of this manipulation? You're looking like that. It's pathetic as ever. And I have no sympathy. I'm sorry for being vulgar with my language, but this trash, you think I'm going to have sympathy for them? Oh no. Dumbass little retards. First of all, I'll never internalize this manipulation. They play my brain to force me to get sexual stimulation. They just, listen, I've made videos about this person here that I follow in 2014 thinking she was an adult. She always looked the same. Matter of fact, it's funny, as she get older, she looks younger. And so, today, what other things they do to me is anybody who's young, in their 20s, like young adults. Because my age has gone to the point where an even 20-some-year-old to me they can play with my brain. They make me imagine them to be not adults. And they then give me stimulation. They can be like 25-year-old and they give me stimulation. Meaning giving me stimulation by manipulating my brain to force me to get sexual stimulation. And then like, oh no, it's because she's a kid. It's like, and they're just young adults. But because now as an adult in my late 30s, getting closer to 40, when I see somebody in their 20s, sometimes I don't even know if they're fully adults. Sometimes they look like they're young adults, but they still play with me because I'm like, it becomes a little blur. So going back to today, to try to gaslight me, I can tell the forced stimulation. You can tell. For example, they just did this because this is the person I followed back in 2014. Like I said, this is what she looked. She's in the late 20s or whatnot. But in 2014, she looked, as I'm saying that they tried to mess with me. She almost looked the same, if anything, looked a little bit older. Now, today, I have a folder of, also because they play with my brain. Not too long ago, I made like an hour-long video almost about somebody who would just work at the office. I thought she was the teenager because I was like, oh my gosh, she brought like a teenager. All along, she's like a 23-year-old. I couldn't believe it. That's how like far I'm. And so they were making me think, and this is the same game every time. Oh, this person was not an adult. Oh, this, and they do this. And this time I was listening to a podcast about Planet Fitness. And they were making me think of somebody that worked there. Somebody in the mid-20s or so. And she was short. And they're like, no, but would an adult be that short? And tried to make me imagine her not being an adult. Matter of fact, I remember times where she was, I think, walking around with her child. She got like a young child. Now they try to make me imagine memories with stimulation that they forced me to have today. And do the same thing. So I'm trying to get back to, okay, first of all, if I see these people in their 20s today, they're going to force me to get sexual stimulation. So I created a folder so how people look from 20, even 30-year-olds, sometimes they can play with me. And so I see this here. I look for my folder for 20, what 20s, what they look like. And so I see this. And below here is just a portion of the face of the person I followed in 2014. And here is just when she's not even an adult yet, but she looks the same. They start stimulating me on the portion of her face. They start giving me stimulation. Like I would get stimulation by seeing just that. This here, this is the ocean person. When I start, well, after I felt this is a picture of her in her past image. Let me just say that I follow her after this picture was taken, maybe months later. But she's not an adult yet here. But look at her here. She actually looks younger today, or at least in that picture I showed, than in this picture. It's weird. She's just look way older than her age. But anyhow, they start stimulating me because the portion of her face is showing, and she's not an adult here. They start stimulating me right here. Can you imagine? And then this little retards. Like little pathetic trash like that. They're like, yeah, Robert. Mind you, I just followed this person thinking she was an adult. And you have now this little sad, pathetic teenage trash. I don't even know if they're even teenagers. Young teenage clowns. Thinking that I'm going to let them live their fantasy. Just because you forced me to get stimulation on the face that is partially covered of somebody I followed in 2014, thinking, I'm not gonna let you leave your fantasy. They start give me intense stimulation. Yeah, Robert. And you have this little pathetic losers like that. Matter of fact, this is who I followed back in 2014. This is her not too long ago. And the picture that you saw in portion is her years back. Matter of fact, she almost looked younger here. Now this trash use whatever they can to try to make me internalize to this manipulation today, and having this little retarded clowns. And I'm sorry for using this terminology and using this verbiage to insult this trash and using this vulgar language, but I swear to God, they need to understand that this is how pathetic you are, you loser. On top of that, having some trashy little life like this that is fully pregnant. doesn't do justice. I should make a specific video about it so you can look closer how pathetic it is. Showing his pregnant stuff. And I love that these clowns still think they're like, you are not doing that because you have some fierce heroes. You're discussing trash involved in a program where children are tortured in this horrible way. And it's their horrible. This is what horrible things they're part of.
Worryingly, a growing number of people are contacting TI support organizations to report that their children seem to be displaying signs of these weapons. Often, the parents are victims themselves, making the torture a generational thing.
A significant number of members, many single mothers and small children, minor children as young as 3 years old, are being targeted and harassed, particularly with voice to skull V2K. The sickness that someone would torture a small child is beyond belief. We have confirmed that these kids are in fact receiving directed energy weapons and voice to skull. It's a very disturbing development for us. With children, they'll use their mother's voice. The parent has to tell the child, watch my lips. If you didn't see me say it to you, that wasn't me.
That's the horror that they're part of. And still want me to see them as like, oh, you a child, trash ass. And by the way, the manipulation that they forced me to have today, even if it's the portion of the face, so from the little one to the portion of the face of somebody I followed, but it's what they do. Then they have these little retard clowns, so not aware of how they look like, to the point where even pregnant they're showing their stomach. Thinking it's gonna make me subscribe to this. Talk about attractive. I was like, ugh. And what they do here, and target video, these clowns don't have no shame. So when I mean no shame, I was like, they don't care how stupid they look. They don't care how obvious it is, huh? They think they're gonna override reality. Me, I'm okay being exhausted by being manipulated like this. I'm gonna put that in their faces, because these trash are gonna be the people having to live a longer life. And we just want them to be so dirty. I want their soul to be so foul that there's no coming back from this. And this is what they do.
Sensation on skin, sinus problems, and sexual attacks. In fact, the TI continued. Many report the sensation of having their genitalia manipulated. Both male and female Ts report a variety of attacks to their sexual organs. My testicles became so sore I could barely walk, Giard says of his early experiences. Others, however, report the attacks in the form of sexual stimulation, including one TI who claims he dropped out of the seminary after constant sexual stimulation by directed energy weapons. Susan Saylor.
And this is what they're doing. So even when I see like the portion of the face here to give me the stimulation, start giving me stimulation. Boom. I'm like, oh gosh. Then you hear this little clown teenage trash. They tell me they're gonna frame me with these little losers here. It's like, nah, you got her. You got her. Trash. And I'm like, if you're willing to play this game in front of me, understand what you sign up for. I've warned these clowns, this is not gonna be in this pacific way. And like, you train us, I'm like, no. I'm warning you that if you think that you can play this game where you can frame me and do this in front of me, I'm gonna let that happen, knowing that how torturous you are to children. What you expect somebody to do, I will do it. If you thought your fake emotions, your ways you want me to accept your manipulation is working, I've gave all the warning. Whoever will encourage you aren't the one who can put themselves at risk. Taking video, stay strong.